Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to an episode of the TRIFLIX cast. Today we have John and Leah Sandlin. Today we're going to be interviewing them, talking about their life story and their ministry, the work that they're doing for the Lord. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, for sure.
Heck yeah. All right. And the point of this cast, this interviewing podcast that we have, is to promote creatives and innovators within our group of friends, our circle, our sphere. Right now we're based out of Central Indiana, but we're always trying to pull in more and more guests. So if you have any guests that you guys would like to recommend, someone creative and innovative, feel free to send them our way. We'd be happy to have them on, just like these two here. So if you guys would like to share a little bit about yourself, tell us, what it is that you guys are currently doing, and then we can go right into it.
All right. So a little background for me. So my day job, I'm a Christian financial planner. So I help different Christians. We call it Be Wise with their money, but it's retirement planning, family planning, anything related to finances. So that's where I spend most of my kind of 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. weekdays kind of thing. But part of that difference in what being a Christian financial planner, bringing our faith to the forefront, talking about faith and finances, but more importantly, how do we give back to the community? How do we show Christ's love, not just through my daily activities, but how do I use my business to glorify God in what we do? So through that, I try and find strategic partnerships with local mission partners or ministries that are doing kingdom work and serving well. So I try and use my business platform to highlight some of those things, whether that's through awareness, through helping with fundraising, through service projects, educational events, those kind of things. But there's a few ministries that are close to our hearts, either because of our background, because of our battle scars from the past, or whatever purpose that we both feel that God's called us, that's the right area to give back.
Okay.
So some of those ministries, we have Leah and I run a car ministry. It's a standalone 501c3 where we help people with transportation. So whether that's just sometimes helping people with car repairs, or other times we pick up clunkers, tow them home and fix them, and then try and sell them or get them into somebody's hands that could really use them. So that plays itself out in a lot of different ways. We've seen a lot of fruit from that, and we enjoy that. But ultimately, we use the car as a prop to get into mentorship, to try and lift these people's lives up, to try and help make a difference. Right?
Yeah.
So we have certain blessings. I used to be a mechanic in my younger days. So I'm somewhat comfortable around cars and handy with cars, but for me to be able to share that and give that back, to find new ways to make an impact in people's lives that's serving a relevant need, but then at the same time, when they feel Christ's love, when I try and pour that on them, they see that and they wonder what's different about that guy. What's going on with him that he wants to help me, or that he gave up his Saturday to
what's he getting out of this?
Right. So I get that a lot. Like, what's the catch? What they're waiting on that curveball to come around and the gotcha, but then that opens doors for us to have that faith conversation or that side. So we're pretty active in our church. So we worship at Terrace Lake here locally.
You look familiar.
Yeah. So we do a lot of, our focus lately has been more on the outreach space. So trying to kind of create programming or inspire other people to get more active and find ways to, if we create the programming, maybe to streamline how they can serve or show Christ's love to those in need. So that's another space. Leah is much more active in jail ministry than I am. So the REC program has created some unique opportunities for us to be inside the jail, kind of sharing Christ's love, whether it's doing Bible study, addiction recovery classes, other venues.
Yeah.
But ultimately, a lot of those paths, or whether we're working with people from Brighter Days at the Love Chapel, or some of the clients at Clarity, those types of organizations that are close to home for us, they all kind of funnel through of a lens for me of how can I serve them? How can I be a light in their day to day by showing them Christ's love and making a little bit of a difference for them today. Right?
Yeah. And actually, I think we talked a little bit about this off camera, but we've had several guests on before, and one of them was Caleb Lowe and one was Brian Kendrick.
Oh, cool.
You talk about, automotive, and one of the things Caleb really enjoys doing is finding clunkers as well and reaching out to people. Do you guys interact at all? If so, has it been like through your business, or has it just been more recreationally?
So Caleb has a few of those clunkers at our house right now. So we're pretty deep in with Caleb. So he's participated through our ministry. We've built a pole barn that has a car lift, and it makes us a lot more efficient. But last summer he spent a lot of time coming out, and we were serving alongside each other. Kind of, he was equipped; he could handle his own. So we just kind of did projects in parallel and helped each other out, and that was really cool to find ways. But I first met Caleb when we were in Bartholomew County Jail, and
ministry or
serving in REC.
Oh, okay.
I've never been arrested yet, so luckily. But we were serving in there, and he and his family had come in to serve dinner to all the inmates and the people that were volunteering for the weekend. So that was the first time I met him. And then talking with his mom, she kind of highlighted that he likes to work with cars and would be a good fit to work with our ministry. So we had some good times in the last 6 or 8 months, kind of partnering on different projects.
Yeah. His whole message from, the hour long discussion we had, his takeaway was like what it means to be basically a good friend or a good person in the community, even to those people that you don't know, what it means to be basically the hands and feet of Christ in a way. But let's talk a little bit about Leah. You do jail ministry?
I do, yes.
Okay.
So for work, I do work at Terrace Lake Church. I'm the communications director there, and then kind of transitioning into some of that outreach. So we're developing some different programming that John talked about. And then, so jail ministry is my hobby. I guess.
That's a very interesting hobby, because I know some people play recreational sports or video games, and you're actually going out there and trying to make an impact.
Yeah, well, I love going in there. I mean, and that's only because God has kind of presented that to me and drawn me into that ministry. I wouldn't do that on my own. That's not somewhere that I would be. I don't think I'm equipped for that or anything like that. God called me in there, and then after my first Residence Encounter Christ REC weekend, I was hooked. And
I was going to ask, how does one get drawn into that? Because I feel like for most people, that's something they've never even considered.
Right. Yeah. So it was that REC weekend, and I was at a table, and just the girls that I met there, I felt very connected to, and I didn't want it to end at that weekend. I just felt like we had started something. And in order for me to really pour into their life and be a part of their life and help them know who Jesus was, I needed to continue to be a part of their life. And so I started going in on Sundays, and then now I go on Sunday and Monday and lead a Bible study, and then a different class on Wednesday. But
REC weekend, that's a Terrace Lake led ministry?
That is not. REC is its Residence Encounter Christ is its own ministry.
Okay.
It's 5 or 6 counties, surrounding counties of Bartholomew County, that go into the different jails and do that. It's a weekend, basically an evangelism weekend, presenting the gospel through different testimonies to inmates.
Yeah. So were you guys doing these types of ministry works before you guys met each other, or no? So that's been something that, has it helped bring you together? Has that been something you guys do on your own individual time? You come together and talk about it later? How does that affect your guys' marriage?
Kind of all of the above. I think that since we've been married, and one of the reasons that we got married was because it makes us better. That we glorify Christ more through our marriage, through being together. And so John equips, he kind of releases me to have that time in the jail and to do that. And then he's always there to listen, because it's hard. It's heartbreaking. There's a lot of burdens that you carry through working with people that don't always want that help. And so John is there for me, and vice versa, I think, as we just kind of get through the ministry. But I think, it's certainly since we've been married, both of us, kind of that outreach ministry has just kicked up. Yeah. For whatever reason, God using us, I guess,
Yeah, so overall, you'd say it's positive and negative, and not,
Oh, positive, yeah,
definitely.
For sure, yeah.
That's good. And then what's, for each of you individually, what's been your favorite part of your ministries and how it's affected you guys?
Yeah, I think when we first started, right after we got married, we did a mission trip over to Kenya, Nairobi, and we went into a Christian orphanage, right? And seeing the people that just had nothing. I think for us to experience that, but they still had the joy of Christ in their heart, and they were still dancing around and excited about life. That was really eye-opening for me to see that transition of all the crap and the worldly stuff that I have. And I was, I don't know, envious isn't the right word, but excited for them, or I wanted to have that same joy, right? So that's been somewhat of a driving factor, and I think Leah had a similar experience over there in that pursuing that relationship with God and understanding what can I do today to glorify God? What's that next little step I can do, live in the moment, and really kind of grab a hold of that energy or that love and that peace, really. So that's played itself out in a lot of different ways as we've dabbled with different topics or different ministries, but to be able to see the fruit when we work with, we call them our neighbors, right? When we work with somebody that just needs to experience Christ's love, and we're able to find new or crazy or unique ways to kind of share that with somebody, just to see the fruit of how it impacts their life, right? So when they start making different choices or pulling themselves out of whatever mess that they created for themselves, we all have our own messes, even myself and Leah individually, but to see people be inspired to do something different, I think that's the fruit for me.
So you call them your neighbors. Does that come from the man asking Jesus, who is my neighbor, or is that something more original?
It's close. So similar theme, but in Mark 12:31. Okay. So if you read Mark 12, 30 and 31, there's the two main rules, right? Love your God with all your heart, soul, and mind and might. And then the next verse says, love your neighbor as yourself. Yeah. So that's kind of become a mantra verse for us, is how do we love ourselves and how do we want to share that with other people?
I like going from point A to point B, so I feel like you must be doing something right.
That's right.
And then for yourself?
Yeah. So for me,
feel free to move the mics around. The other, you can't break them.
Okay. A couple things that stand out, I think, for me is my favorite part of the ministry would be selfish. I guess they kind of both are selfish, but is the lessons that I learn from people, and that God reveals to me, as John said, with that mission trip and what we learned there. But then as I'm meeting with people and just getting to learn about what their life is like and different experiences and stuff, and what that teaches me. But then things that God teaches me about, when we first started doing jail ministry and car ministry and those things, I wanted results. I was putting this work in, and I wanted results, and I wanted it, in my timing and how it was supposed to look and all that stuff. And that is not how it works. And so just learning that that's not my responsibility, that's on God. And my responsibility is to do what he's called me to do and to be obedient to that. And that's it. That's where it ends. And so therefore there's success in that because I answered the call and not because somebody's life was changed or not. It's beautiful when lives are changed. It's awesome to see, but that's not the requirement for me to get joy or value out of what I do. And then the second part is relationships, is just like, I love the people that I've gotten to be a part of their life, and therefore now they're a part of my life, and my story looks different and is changed now. There's somebody in the studio here today with us that I've met through jail ministry that and she's an amazing woman, and she's a part of my life, and what I've learned from her and how she's been there for me. And now we get to hang out, like we're going on a girls' date tonight, and just stuff like that. That's awesome, right? So it's those two things, kind of the lessons learned, and then the relationships.
You mentioned that at one point you had a shift between making the goal change in people's lives, and then it shifted to something new. How did that affect you personally, and is it still a struggle for you at times to give that up and to acknowledge that isn't the way it should be?
It is, because also it's tied to my main sin struggle that I've realized now later in life is fear of man. I'm constantly worried about what people think of me and where my value lies, and so I want the results because I want it to be about me, what I've done, and I want everybody else to see what I've done. That's my struggle. And so when we first started doing a lot of this ministry, that was where I was. That's where my heart was wanting this to be recognized, I think, for something that somebody else, somebody else's life being changed. And so then that switch was hard because the reason that it came was because of heartbreak, because of people not getting it, not being changed, and that sort of thing. And then realizing, well, what am I doing this for? if I'm not getting these results, then is it me? Am I doing it wrong? Is something going on that I need to change? And then God was just so sweet and gracious to say, it's not you, sweetheart. I do this. It's not up to you.
Yeah.
And you just got to go and do it. Just go and be there. So.
Yeah, it's like psychology. They call the hero syndrome. I always call it the Disney complex, where it's like you have to be the person that goes and saves somebody. But in the way I would say a lot of Christians view the faith is like that's not the way it was supposed to be. Like we had to be saved. We can't. There's nothing about us innately that can save others.
That's right.
But we're talking about elevating ourselves and trying to get what we want done in the world. Which is a great segue for Hill Zion Records out here, out in the world, trying to get what they want done. They are a Christian-based record company based out of Tennessee, and they produce a lot of rap music, which is kind of nice. You don't hear too many Christian rap artists. They're developing. There's a lot that are starting to go mainstream. You got Lecrae, Andy Mineo, but all those people are part of the same Reach Records. Cool. So it is nice knowing that there are other record labels out there if you want to listen to some good Christian rap with your family and not worry about what the neighbors think,
So when's the next concert they're having here in Columbus?
Oh, the next one in Columbus.
Yep.
I would hope they have it soon. But like I said, they're based out of Tennessee, so a lot of their work is about 4 hours south of us.
All right.
We actually came into contact. I was making some lyric videos, and someone on their label I'd worked with recommended me to the rest of the label, so we keep getting more work with them. They're planning on coming to Columbus soon for photo shoots, and we've been helping with their website. Really great guys, really, really good team, and we're glad to be partnered with them. And they allow us to share a lot of our work in Tennessee, and in exchange, we're happy to share the word of all of their work with listeners on the podcast.
So I ask because over the last year or two, my passion for Christian rap has really grown.
Really?
So I took my kids. We went to a concert in Columbus, Ohio, to see Andy Mineo and a lot of that group.
Yeah.
But I've also grown really fond of Seven.
Okay.
And just kind of the lyrics and the potency and how real a lot of the Christian rap is. It's very pointed at everyday problems for everyday people.
Yeah.
So ironically, for the last week, I've been shaking a lot of bushes locally to get some people together to sponsor, host, or allure a Christian rap concert to come to town.
I mean, they're already planning on coming here for a music video,
so
photo
tell them
shoot.
to bring their instruments and everything. Let's make it a party.
I'm really happy about this. You mentioned doing concerts and stuff with your family and getting attendees, and it is. In my experience, I can't find one closer than Indy, which is still, almost an hour drive. And between myself, my close friends, and then my fiance, we have probably been to at least 8 or 9 concerts within the last 5 years, and all Christian concerts. What I'm referring to, and it's like you said, you got KB, who's almost every year the top of my Spotify playlist, always the top for most played at the end of the year. You got Lecrae, Andy Mineo, Tripoli, and all those guys, and
you got Bizzle, Dayton, Mission.
Yep. Ty Basil, I think, Bassel. He's getting big. I'm really fond of the artists that only get 1,000 followers. So I always try to find the newest. Try to get that itch. And then you also have Social Club. They're starting to branch off and get signed by CMG. But yeah, that's cool. I didn't know we had them coming.
Minor,
yes. Cannon and Durage are actually 2 of my favorite. Very lesser known for that record company.
So there's a new group that just came onto my radar this week, and so I listen to Brian T a lot also, Kingdom Music, but there's a group, and I don't know how to say his name yet.
Okay.
It's number 5 and then IVE. So I don't know if it's
It's
5 or
just
5
yeah.
or that's some of the whiteness in me coming out that I just don't get it sometimes.
And race has nothing to do with just culture.
That's right.
It's just culture.
I'm uncultured. I guess I could go with that. So we've been talking with some other groups and other ministry partners locally to how can we just kind of make a party out of it. Right?
Yeah.
So I get pumped and excited about how can we do a little bit crazy things, right? Like Christian rap, most people would say is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
But maybe have a Christian rap concert in a church and have some food catered in, or order a big pile of pizzas or something, and then we can do like a service project while we're there, and everybody can write love letters to some of our inmates, friends in jail.
See,
or
that, put on a concert for the jail.
That's right.
Yeah.
We
That
could do
would
it in
be
the
cool.
jail, take our tour on the road.
You'd be surprised. So I assume you're into rap. You've heard of Social Club at least, right? Yeah, they're signed by a larger label now. Back just 4 years ago, before they got signed by CMG, I attended one of their concerts, and it was in a church's gymnasium, and they performed on an upper stage. And I don't know how they got the funding for this, but the dad was a cop, and he was throwing his son a birthday party, so they had some Christian rappers flown out specifically for his son's birthday. I don't know if they were rich or if the price was that low at the time.
Yep.
But I'm just saying, I think if they can get a kid's birthday party with one of the larger Christian groups right now, just 4 years ago, maybe we could get them before they get big as well.
Yeah.
All right, I'll work with you on that. We'll see if we can lock it up.
I'm sure he's going to be excited to hear about this. All right, but I think you guys have limited time today, so we are about 7 minutes out. It just changed on me. We're about 6 minutes out from starting to have to wrap up. But let's talk a little bit about how your guys' missions, how your visions for the work that you got into, how that has evolved over time. Because I'm sure you're renting out clunkers. You didn't start out with a fleet. You know, you're not Hertz or a rental company. Yeah. And then I'm sure we've talked a little bit about your initial start, but is it just a Sunday project for you? Like, is this something that you've made a habit, or has this started to attach itself to more of your personality, to more of your lifestyle?
So the kind of the shift over time. So for me, I didn't feel a lot of those pressures to check certain boxes or have quotas of how many cars do I need to flip this week, right? So initially, it was just kind of, I have a Craigslist addiction. I love searching Craigslist, just looking for weird things, to purchase if I can get a good deal on it. And I just, if I can find a $5,000 car and buy it for less than $500, that's interesting to me. So I'm willing to go meet some guy in a dark alley in downtown Indianapolis at 3 a.m. and buy this clunker with no title and a big bad story behind it. And just like the grosser, the more exciting that gets.
That doesn't surprise me here, because a lot of these people listening are probably on audio only and they're not on YouTube watching. I think about 50% of our analytics doesn't visibly see it. For you guys that don't see it, this is one of the largest men I've ever seen. He's probably well over 6 foot, and he looks like he could bench press the cars home.
At least a water bottle, if not. But it's
very large.
It's fun. It's a sport. I mean, I never really feel uncomfortable generally in our own state or towns, But to find for me, it initially started as a sport, right? If I could go buy this $5,000 car for $500, fix it up and sell it. That's how I used to fund my alcohol habit. I used to be a raging alcoholic. I've been sober for about 4.5 years. So something to replace that with is tinkering with cars and keeping my hands busy. So I've found that I can still do those same weird, like Craigslist hunting, right? But now if I do it for a better cause or a better purpose, if I still get that really good deal, instead of flipping it for profit, if I can sell that car for $500 to somebody, and that transition we've morphed it a little bit over time to where if we find a client or a neighbor that they can't afford $500 because whatever their circumstance is, we work with them on payment plans. But if this young lady that just gets out of jail, if she can't afford $500, we might talk, can we do $100 a month? Right? And make it palatable for her. But I don't want her to come pay me. I want to help her find a mentor. I want her to meet with her mentor, pay the mentor, and work all that through to really forge relationships with smart Christian women that could be good role models for that neighbor.
My brain's going crazy now. Just everything you're saying is like all these people that I know is like, oh, they might be interested in helping. We've talked to Brian Kendrick, and they have the rehabilitation home they're building much closer than the Kentucky one, I believe. So it's like, you could actually go from prison to actual rehabilitation, because I think overwhelmingly the U.S.'s prison system isn't designed for rehabilitating. Right. It's a slap on the wrist. It's a punishment sentence. But a lot of people, unless people come into the as a ministry, a lot of those people don't find healthy replacement habits, like
right.
working on a car. So you go to prison for alcohol, you come out, and then now what do? I don't idle hands. I'm going to start drinking again. So that's really cool that you're able to pay that forward, not just with the cars, but offer them these suggestions of like, I want you to use this money to better yourself again.
Yeah, we meet with them. We talk about budgeting. We talk about how much car can I afford. Hey, you're going to have to start setting some money aside. You're going to have to do an oil change in the next couple months. Just kind of that adulting 101 conversation.
And
right?
some people need that, like not everybody's given the same opportunities to learn growing up. And some people grow at a different pace and learn. Our guest is raising their hand. But I mean, it's true. Everybody does learn at a different pace. And I think it's calloused in a way to hold everybody to the expectation. If you're skilled, that's awesome, but it doesn't mean everybody else will be in that same way. And we did talk about your evolution a little bit, about how it changed your perspective on goal setting. And maybe it's not bad to have goals, but maybe the goals we have aren't exactly the ideal ones for bettering ourselves as an individual.
Yeah. So I guess the evolution, and you had started by asking earlier, how has it changed my life, or kind of, whoa.
Yeah.
There you got it.
So repeat where do you want me to go?
This is for you to talk about wherever you want to go. The original question was talking about the evolution of whenever you first started the ministry versus where it is now. And how has it changed, whether it be your habits or your personality or the vision you had for this ministry? How has that changed?
Okay. Well, some of my habits and how it's changed, I think, is, as I talked about before, just with learning where God wants me to put my value and understanding what people are getting out of the ministry and those things. But it's made my time with God much more dependent on Him than I would be if I were not doing this type of ministry, because I have realized that it's not me that people need, it's Him, in a much more tangible way, because I'm around people all the time that are in desperate need of Him. And so if my relationship with Him is not solid, then what they're getting is me and my own take on a situation, or my values, or those sorts of things. And that's not what they need. That's not going to help them in the long run. I mean, it didn't get me anywhere good, so it's not going to get them anywhere good. And so what they need is Jesus. And if I'm not with Him and dependent on Him, then they're going to get just not what they need. They're not going to get Him. So it has I guess the transformation in my life then has transformed my ministry to be much more about Jesus and about truth. So when I first started the ministry, it was kind of like, okay, what's going on in your life? And I would kind of talk about how we might be able to change that. And now I sit down, if I've got a relationship with you and I know what's going on, we're going to talk about what the Bible says about what you need to do or not do. We're going to talk about what Scripture says. We're not going to talk about what I think you should or shouldn't do. You know what I mean? So now it's about, I guess it's life or death, right? I realize that ministry and what we're doing here, it's life or death, because people are not guaranteed tomorrow. And when you're working with people, a lot of the people that we do work with are in addiction, and you never know what's going to happen. And so I gotta be real when I have the opportunity. I gotta be real about what Jesus wants for your life, and to share His love for you and how great that is, and how it can transform you, right? So we've got to talk about that. So it's transformed. It's made it. I mean, John used the word potent earlier, talking about rap music, but it's made, I think, my ministry more potent because it's serious.
Yeah. Whenever it's let me finish that first thought, and then before I start jumping around, whenever there's something at stake, it gives the situation value. And we were talking about how, I was listening to Andy Mineo on his podcast, actually, and it's part of his album as well. Whenever the reason death is beautiful is that with it makes each breath important, because you have a finite amount, you have a limited amount, and within each of those breaths, but like from the time you're born to the time you die, you have that dash, and it's how much can you get done within that time. And that's for the most part everybody's goal, whether they're a Christian or not. It's like, what can I get done in this time, whether they want to live for themselves, other people, do ministries, live for God and share his message, whatever that be. And if it weren't for death, people would just put things off. And it adds so much more value and meaning to the relationships, because it's like, well, I mean, he's spending time with me. It's like, well, what else is he going to do forever? You know, it's like, right. It's intentional then, and it matters. Yeah. So I think that's really cool. We'll, if you need to, it is 5:33 in the room. Do you need to step out? You want to? Yeah. Okay. That's fine.
Your stay?
Yeah. Okay. Alriady. Oh, gosh. That's so cute.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Nice to meet you as well. Are you stepping out too? For girls' date night?
Yeah, that's right.
She's Leah's bodyguard.
Yeah. My fiance's having her date night with all of her friends, all of her bachelorette friends. So hope you guys have a good one. Would you mind shutting that behind? Thank you. Perfect. All right. Yeah, we were actually... I was kind of rushing through all the questions earlier just so that way we could get her as much time to talk on all the subjects and allow her to voice herself.
That's cool.
So we actually don't have too many more questions left, but we can wrap this up. And if not, then we can talk about like rap or cars.
Yeah, let's go deep, whatever you like.
Whatever you want to go on to. So I was going to ask, what is the thing that has helped you learn the most? Some people it's the just the hands-on experience. Some people it's a mentor, a book. I mean, the Bible's kind of a cop-out, but if it is, share on it, man. I want to hear.
Well, I don't like claiming that the Bible is the reason for a lot of my change, because I'm just a horrible student. I really struggle with the discipline and picking it up and being the man I want to be in a lot of ways. So, but anytime that I do struggle with topics, there's a time in my life when I had a lot of messes in my life, and working through those topics through the Bible gave me foundation, right? Yep. It gave me what the Bible says, and then trying to study through that and understand what's going on, what's God trying to say. That was extremely helpful. Secondly, some of my spiritual superheroes that have been put in my life, whether it's Leah's dad, Eric Ruttram, or Mark Miller, who was one of the guys that kind of welcomed me at Terrace Lake. But there's a half a dozen or 10 guys probably that I would say during that season when there was a lot of turbulence and a lot of my messes were kind of coming undone and blowing up in my face. Working through that, there were a lot of smart guys there to pick me up and kind of point me towards a better path, right? So seeing that has inspired a lot of the effort that I want to do. I'm not that smart evangelistic guy, right? I can't just spit off Bible verses all the time or those kind of things that I would love to be, but I'm just not equipped that way. So I try and live my role as a humble servant, right? And that's something I can do. I can wake up every morning, I can work hard, I can do my thing and go to bed and not lose sleep at night over my behavior or my actions, Yeah. So that transition, just spending time at first with some of those guys was, for me, it was weird when they'd say, hey, could you go to breakfast with me before work? Or you want to grab lunch? I never really thought about the social aspect as it blends through the day, right? So that's working with the company, my company now. I work for Thrivent, and I told you I meet with Christians all day, and we talk about finances and wherever they're at in their life and how to work through whatever their goals are. But I'm meeting with smart Christians all day, every day. I meet with a lot of pastors, a lot of elders. It just makes for a really rich day. So my normal business kind of puts me in there, but then these guys are pouring into me at the same time. So they're always building me up, and I come home more energized or built up than when I left, so work doesn't take it out of me, which during that rocky time, finding my purpose, that was really helpful in that I can go to work, I can make my contributions for a good cause during the day, and I don't feel like I'm laboring in vain. You know?
Yeah. So you mentioned your messes. How did those develop? Was that just lacking responsibility and not upholding certain responsibilities, I guess, or was it just turn of events, luck? How does that occur?
Well, I went through a divorce maybe almost 7 years ago now, or 6 years ago, and for me, that was tough, right? Seeing my kids leave. At the time, my kids were kind of preteen. That was a really painful time for me. And a lot of it was just my boneheaded choices in my past, right? And alcohol was an issue, and just me not being a great man, right? So, and all that led up to kind of that volatile explosion. And then afterwards, I spiraled for a while, right? I turned to alcohol. I was drinking way more than I should be every day. That was kind of my normal. And it would just didn't give me kind of goals or tasks to. I'm a recovering engineer also, I tell people. So I'm kind of nerdy math. I like process. I like structure. I like logic, those kind of things.
Just not reading.
Yeah, not reading. So I can read blueprints. I can read car magazines. I can memorize a 1,000-page repair manual. But, to read like a paragraph in the newspaper or, something a little softer, I just really struggle with that kind of reading, But on that transition side, going through that, there was a season where, I was wondering, what's my purpose? Why am I here? What's God want for me? And I realized that I was raised Catholic. I had a good upbringing, all of that. And I went through the motions. I went to a Catholic school. It was all every opportunity to learn a lot and have it impact my life. But a lot of it I didn't take seriously. I knew the Bible. I would say even into my young 30s or mid 30s, I knew the Bible as more of a history book. There were a lot of great stories in it, but I never really connected. I'm a pretty dense guy. I never really connected between my head and my heart, or what's this story mean for me? What's God trying to tell me in this situation, this circumstance? What can I learn from that guy, right? But in real life, in my daily interactions, I can see mentors. I can watch their mistakes, and I can say, I don't want to live like that, or I'm a lot better at it, seeing it out. So I'm a visual person. But reading stories and that, I really just struggled with. But like I said, those guys that pointed me towards the word or towards other positive areas. And then I attribute the purpose thing. I went to a men's breakfast, and Josh Burnett was there speaking. And
good guy.
He was asking questions like, the first question is, what do you enjoy doing? Right. Second question was, what are you good at? And that's not always the same thing. Right. In some cases. But then following that up, he was asking, what's God been training you to do for your whole life? Right. So for me, some of that self-reflection was, I've always worked on cars. That means I have some mechanic skills. I like finding a good deal. Right. So I like saving money. I like the sport of saving money, all those kind of things, because I'm a cheapskate. Right. But I also like helping others. Right. So I've spent my whole life, bumping through kind of positive areas, but I do enjoy helping others or kind of sharing that light. So he gave a sermon that kind of tied all those together, right? And that really helped me to focus my professional career. Instead of helping big companies save money, I want to help people save money to where I can make an impact on individuals or families. And some of my baggage, to what you were talking about, some of my mess, divorce, a lot of divorces are a result of finance problems, right? So to get a role as a personal finance guy in that financial space, if I can coach people to that, that's one other way that maybe I can help some couples avoid some of the same traps that I set for myself, right?
So did you have the financing background prior to?
A little bit, yeah. So I went to my undergrad's in mechanical engineering. I got here in Columbus.
Purdue, Polytech, that's same alma mater.
That's right. My daughter's a freshman out there now, right, studying mechanical engineering. So
it's a good school.
And then a lot of my mentors at the time, I was an Eagle Scout back, a lot of my Boy Scout leaders and mentors in my early 20s said, keep going on, don't stop, right? Go ahead and get your MBA. Don't take a break from school, right? But I had a baby in high school, right? My daughter, that's why I said I got started a little bit earlier than I probably should have. But for her, like missing that time at home, I was a full-time student. I worked full-time to try and provide for a family. But all the smart people around me said, don't quit going to school. Once you start getting that free time, you won't want to go back. So I plowed through and got my MBA when I was around 25. And I switched roles or kind of careers. Instead of being more engineering or customer engineering, field engineering. I did more cost savings, analytics type projects for big companies. And that got me into a lot of the nerdy math and analytics to try and find ways, like Six Sigma type stuff. Everybody around here hears that. Right?
Yeah, I've taken the classes.
Yep.
It's so much fun. Just a bunch of statistics.
That's right.
Yeah. So you had you mentioned like the meaning aspect. So or at least like lacking it with the lack of goals came like the lack of meaning and the lack of purpose. So that had changed as you developed more goals for yourself, or
I would say as I was shifting through that, I realized that a lot of my priorities weren't built on a solid foundation, right? They were making more money, or they were having fancier cars, or those kind of things, right? A lot of the keeping up with the Joneses topics that I was chasing. And that was with people, with relationships as well, right? I wasn't looking for deep in real relationships. I was looking for quick things, or, a lot of the wrong stuff at the time. And like I said, there was just a lot of aspects or facets of my life that were inappropriate or weren't the man I'd be happy if my kids saw that on the newspaper, those kind of things. So that realization took me probably 6 or 8 months to kind of, that was a journey over a couple seasons where I was starting to realize, why am I doing this? Or when I would say my old jokes that I used to tell with all my buddies, I'd say that in my new circle of friends, and they all kind of look at me like I'm an idiot, right? Or like, hey, that's not appropriate, right? So that feedback that kind of shapes you and molds you, like Leah talked about, change your circumstance. You got to change your surroundings and change the people that you involve yourself with, right?
Yeah, there's a gentleman that's he studies psychology, personal growth in a way, and he speaks on like your individual meaning for yourself, the way you view yourself. Your meaning is directly proportional to the amount of responsibility you take. So like if you just go to work and that's it, like you probably do have meaning, like you're going in, you clock in, you set your schedule. But like once you have a kid and then you become a parent, it's like, well, there's more responsibility, but if you're not upholding it, then you're basically taking that meaning away from yourself that otherwise you could have had, like being a good husband, or upholding like your responsibilities at work, upholding ministries. The more of that you have, the more meaning you have. And it's not just because you're adding value to people around you, but it's like it's a personal, like we're designed to work, we're designed to be social. And the more you do that, I feel like that is partly related to like your serotonin, like that it will release positivity in yourself. And then usually, I mean, you don't want to have so many responsibilities that you work yourself to death. Like you said, there are certain things that you want to overlap. And I don't know if you've heard of this before, but as you're talking about the Josh Burnett thing, there's a Japanese concept called I think it's just the acronym, but it's IKIGAI, and it's like ikigai. And it's, so what do you love, what are you good at, what can you be paid for, and what the world needs. And you want to find the ideal of like your purpose in life. To find that job that really matches for you is to find one that all of those circles or all those spheres overlap, and that's like the dream job for an individual. And everybody's going to be different, but where they start to overlap, what you love and what you're good at would be a passion, and what you love and what you need, and what the world needs, is a mission. So like you love looking up these deals, the world needs people to help them find good deals. Like that is your mission. That's what your side business would be. What the world needs and what you get paid for, engineering or financing, that's a vocation. Now, if you love it, then that adds a little more complexity. And then what you're good at and what you can be paid for it is a profession.
That's right.
Maybe you don't love it. For me, one of the main reasons I studied engineering was it's a really good fallback. Like I can do it. I like it. I don't love it, but I like it, and I'm pretty good at it. And you can get paid for it. The world needs engineers. So for me, it was either a profession or vocation, and those kind of met in the middle. Luckily for me, it was like the videography, the media worked out in the way. So what I loved, what the world needed, what I was good at, and what I can get paid for, depending on the client, it started to align a little bit. So it's always interesting to me whenever I see other people doing that. And for me, it's one of my side missions is to help people find what it is for them, similar to how, Josh was in that situation where
That's
he goes up and he teaches people to be introspective, to be reflective of what their values are.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense in that the more you can hone in your activities, right? So if you think about if you have 24 hours in a day, the more hours that you can put in the center of that, those crosshairs, probably the more accomplished you're going to feel in a positive way, not a pride way. But I think of examples in my past where when I worked in corporate America, I worked for Cummins, I worked for Toyota, then I got into consulting where I was meeting with mostly Fortune 100 clients. But when you go into those meetings, I had to wear a suit and tie. I really had to check my faith at the door. I had to check a lot of my attitude at the door, because I'm kind of a zany, weird guy sometimes. But to be able to I had to leave that outside if I wanted to accomplish the task of whatever the business purpose was, or to get people on my team, or to get everybody bought into where we were going, those kind of things. To be a leader, you have to be polished, and I had to try and fit myself into that image, right? Yeah. And that was okay. I did an okay job at it, those kind of things. But I didn't really it almost felt like I was two-faced at times, right? If I got to go put my professional guy hat on, and then after 5 o'clock, we might go out and drink a gallon of sweet tea and get crazy and ride four-wheelers through the woods really fast, and be stupid. But those are two different people almost, right? And that's where I was. So working in the corporate space, when Thrivent called me and they said, "Hey, John, we're a Christian faith-based financial services company. Yeah. You'll be selling life insurance and disability insurance." I said, "No, thanks. I mean, I'm not a used car salesman, right? Yep. None of those kind of things." But then they said, "You get to help people with their finances. You get to help people save money. You get to touch lives, make a difference." Some of those factors.
Was the guy letting you know this a salesman?
He was, or maybe he was a recovering salesman. He was a recruiter or manager,
reaching out to everything he knows that you wanted out of the job.
That's right. But I was still kind of on the fence about it because I didn't want to be a salesman, right? So to find that balance. But then at the end they said, "Well, we're a Christian organization. When we get together as a team, we start with a prayer. We do a devotional together as a team." And that just smacked me across the face because I've never lived fully with my coworkers, right? Yeah. That I'm walking, they're my family in some ways, right? So to the guys that I spend the most time with, to be real with them all the way through, that was really intriguing for me, right? And then when they said we're not afraid in public to tell people we love Jesus, you can't really go preaching that through the halls at Cummins or Toyota, those kind of places. So
I feel like you could,
for
and if anyone
while,
said anything, then you could claim, I don't know, discrimination against your religious values. I don't know. They'd probably ask you to stop.
Yeah, it wouldn't go on long.
Yeah. So we talk about the learning. What are the misunderstandings people have about you, your business, whatever? What stands out to you the most as please stop asking me this, or just the question you have to answer the most?
So we get the question a lot, how do I get a free car, right? So they don't really understand our mission or our purpose. They just know we give away cheap or free cars, right? Yeah. Which is true in a lot of cases. Initially, we gave away a lot of free cars, and that was really fun. I mean, it's almost like I'm playing The Price is Right. Everybody gets a free car, just pass them out like they're playing cards.
Oprah Winfrey down here.
So that was really fun for a while. But when I would follow up with those people or check in with them, they were kind of squandering it away or not. They kind of had taken it for granted, or I felt kind of abused in the relationship that I was giving them something, right? But I didn't really know what to ask in return. So I mismanaged those expectations. It's I'm not blaming it on them or anything like that, but
that's how you learn.
That's right. So that was kind of our initial place with the car ministry. But then over time, we realized that even if I only have $100 invested in this car, if it's worth $2,000 or $3,000, I'm still comfortable selling it for $500, right? Yeah. They're getting a good deal, but again, I've almost turned that into the sale or that transaction of the car is almost immaterial. I would rather they set up a payment plan and they're meeting with that mentor. So we've really funneled or focused I would say a year ago, I would have said we run a car ministry that does some mentoring on the side, right? But I'd say we flipped that. I want a mentoring ministry that happens to fix cars and flip cars on the side, right? So when you talk about Caleb coming out to the barn, if I can get 3 or 4 good, smart Christian mechanics that are working on cars.
3 or 4 Calebs.
Yeah, 3 or 4 more of Caleb's. If you know anybody,
Good luck. He's one of a kind.
But getting some of our neighbors to come out and help us work on cars, right? For young guys that maybe don't have a great father figure, or they just, maybe dad doesn't do mechanic-y stuff, and for them to be in a positive environment where they can work on that stuff with us, that's really cool.
Yeah, I guarantee you could find some people, even within this region, that would be interested in just like as a mentorship program for them. Whether, I don't know, I assumed you wanted Christians, but like I'm sure there's still tons of people that are interested in learning those skills. I mean, I myself included, I don't know.
Yeah,
enough.
Not all of our mechanics are Christians. So we have one that's a Buddhist, and honestly, I don't know a lot about that religion, but he's a nice guy. He's courteous. You know, he comes out. We have fun together as kind of guys fellowship, and that doesn't really interrupt us. You know, I mean, it's not a thing that hangs us up or anything like that, but he's always welcome when he comes out, and we have fun with him. And
I guarantee if you quizzed him, he probably upholds more of the 10 Commandments than most Christians do.
Yeah, he could. You know, he seems like he's living right, you know, and he's trying to show love to his neighbors. You know, he may not know that that's a biblical thing also, but it may be a Buddhist thing too. I don't know.
No, that's we've talked a little bit off camera about that. The benefits of having people different around you, whether that be religious, ethnic, cultural, just different vocations, getting to have that time to build a relationship and learn from them. I think there's so much that we can learn from other cultures that actually do align with the Word of God. And it's like, wow, I've never thought of it from that perspective. And it's not until you hear, you know, whether that be a Buddhist or any other religion, share a message, and you're like, oh my gosh, that really does, that speaks to me, and that's something I feel convicted about that I should have been upholding, even through my own faith. Plus, it's always cool to learn about other people.
That's right. But I'd say one of the other things that you ask about struggles and those kind of things. When people call me, so my number is out. I've been in Columbus my whole life. I've had probably the same cell phone my whole adult life. But a lot of people are hearing about our car ministry, right? So they're calling me all day long. You know, I might get 5 or 10 calls a day. How do I get a car? I get a voicemail. Hey, my car's broke down. I'm on the side of the road. Can you help me get a car? Right? And I'm not very good at that emergency response because I'm doing my day job, right?
Or you're not a wrecker service.
Right. I can be, right? At 2 a.m. when I don't have other commitments, but it seems like for me, I'm new with this financial advisory role. So I have to invest a lot of time to get it up and going. It's a small business, right? So a lot of my attention goes there. But when people call me, like my heart just almost breaks for some of them when they say, hey, I'm trying to leave my abusive ex-boyfriend and he's all strung out on drugs and I need this thing. And it's just, I hear a lot of sob stories, right? Everybody's in a lot of pain that wants to come to our ministry. And for me, sometimes that's a heavy burden that I can't keep up with, right? Yeah. And then I feel bad because like I want to show them love. I just don't have the capacity to. Like I want to reach out to them and say, hey, it'll be okay, but I'm going to put you on the waiting list and it might be 8 months or whatever. You know, that just doesn't feel good sometimes. You know?
Are you guys registered as a charity by chance?
Yeah, so we're a 501c3. We're also an LLC.
Do you hear that, people? If you guys, this man, he's struggling to maintain capacity and he's a charity, so I feel like there's some sort of tax write-offs here in terms of donations. If people wanted to reach out to you, we'll talk about sharing your links here in a minute because we do need to wrap this up soon. But the point being, this is something that other people, even if they don't have the skills or the time to invest to help your ministry grow, some people are very financially well off, and that is a gift in a way. And if they wanted to pass that along to you so that they know that their money's going somewhere well used, that's an option, right?
That's right.
All right, good. I didn't mean to cut you off. I just thought that was really cool because I know you mentioned it earlier, and while I do run a business, I'm not too familiar with the charity side of organization, right?
Right on.
So what's advice for you? What's the biggest piece of advice you have for people listening, whether that be about charity, whether that be about finding their ministry, sobriety, talking about your wife's ministry, whether they're in the system, trying to get out? What advice do you have?
Yeah, I would say to start with, what I focus on is baby steps, right? So I'm part of Dave Ramsey's program. I'm the Smart Vestor Pro, those kind of things. And Dave preaches about the baby steps probably better than anyone. He's made that kind of famous, right? And with baby steps, that if you can apply that to about any area of your life, right? So I think of things like, what's one thing I can do differently today? I went to Brian Kendrick's house, or that the Truman House, right, that he was part of, and one of the themes that I took out of that family meeting, this was just last weekend, was in your day, you might do 45 little tasks, or we probably do 4,000 or something, but think on your checklist today is 45 little things. But if you can do each of them well, like brush your teeth, take a shower, make your bed, right? Normal things that when we forget a couple of them, that can stack up and make for a bad day, right? But one of the areas I need to tell myself is have discipline, be obedient, focus, commitment to the cause, right? Whatever those things are for me to stack up my baby steps to make for a good day. I have some ideas of what I want to get accomplished today, but more importantly, when God closes one door, opens a different door on my day, I can't let that wreck my personality. I can't get down on it and understand that. I got to accept this is what it is, right? Yeah. So for me, I'm pretty good at shifting gears and losing some of that emotion, ignoring some of that emotion, and focusing on the next thing, right? And I can do my baby steps, right? So when I work with, when Leah and I work together on projects, sometimes we change paces at different speeds, right? Or I go around that corner a lot sooner than she does, or vice versa. And when we're not on the same page, that causes a lot of emotional conflict, a lot of stress. Like she talked about, when she has expectations of me that this Saturday I'm going to go fix 6 cars and have them ready to sell by next week. And she's starting to promise cars to people. And I'm telling her, hey, Saturday I'm doing something else. I'm only going to fix 1 or 2 cars this weekend, right? So when we're not on the same page, so communication's tough for everybody.
I was going to say it's communication.
That's a lot of marriages, a lot of couples that I talk to that are struggling with things. That's a piece of it, is understanding how to talk. And if you don't know how to talk, ask a friend, ask a counselor, find somebody smart that you trust, ask them how to work through these topics.
If you work for a company and they offer a health plan and you're on the health plan, chances are you have therapy.
That's
Usually it's like 1 to 5 classes for free available to you. I highly recommend it. Therapy's great.
Absolutely.
Feelings are not awful, despite what a lot of young males are taught as a kid.
That's right. You shouldn't bottle it up.
No.
Right? A lot of times, even just talking through it with somebody that may not be interested or may be unbiased in that regard.
Yeah.
Just for me to verbalize some of those things and say, is that really what I think, or is that really what I mean? And when I hear it, that's a good gut check, because for me, I'm generally a very quiet guy. I listen a lot. I observe people a lot. I watch people. I study them, but I don't project out of my mouth too often.
I just found this out the other day. There's 2 types of people. There's many types of people, but in terms of thinking, I guess there's 2 types of very polar opposite people. And I'm sure there's a spectrum of in between, but when you watch a movie and somebody's thinking and they hear a voice inside their head talking, not everybody has that.
Yep.
Some people see words, some people see numbers, they'll see figures, some people see flashes of images. For me, I have that internal narrative, so I can process things on my own, and that is a type of thinking that they call introverted or extroverted thinking. Some people have to externally process it by, you and I have a conversation, and it may sound like this is a very opinionated side of me, but this is the first time I ever had this thought. Yeah. Other people, they need that time alone. They need to process it. They need time to think. So talking about communication, there are so many different things that people just assume this is the way I do it, so this is the way you're going to do it. And whenever they get off track, it is very challenging for people to wrap their heads around it if they're not, vocationally trained in either psychology or some sort of communications background. And then also you have the spiritual sides and all that stuff. But if people are in need of recommendations and you don't mind reading, or at least the audiobooks, right now my fiance and I are taking the His Needs, Her Needs class.
Okay.
It is a Christian-based book. And they talk a lot about the individual needs that one likes in the relationship. So things that matter to one person are different to the other. They talk about how to communicate that in a healthy way, how to receive criticism, and then improve on it without taking it personally.
Yeah.
But I don't recommend that book first. I recommend The Meaning of Marriage first.
That's him.
Is it Tim Keller?
Yep.
Yeah, I love that book because
saw you had it down here.
Yeah, we have basically a whole library in here. A library for me, at least. I don't read a lot. My fiance reads to me in the car.
I listened to that one on tape.
Yeah.
So when Leah and I started dating or getting serious, we did some premarital counseling, and that was the foundation.
Oh,
and, so I would listen to it and to prepare for our counseling sessions, and it was fantastic, right? I mean, I would say before that I had a total worldview of marriage, right? And it really differentiates that of what's the secular or secular worldview or purpose of marriage compared to what has God created for us. What's the purpose of marriage?
The reason I recommend that book first is because it sets the mindset of what it means to be a servant leader.
Yeah.
Now, if you read the His Needs, Her Needs first, and you don't have the right mindset, what you're going to take away from that book, or at least what I would have taken away, is these are the things about my fiance or my wife or my girlfriend, whatever it is, that I don't like, and now I'm going to try my best to change those about them. Mm-hmm. As opposed to if you read The Meaning of Marriage first, it puts the mindset of what it means to love somebody properly, like you said, in the Christian context, and also explains what it means to be a servant leader. And so then your mindset is, how can I serve them? Mm-hmm. And then when you read His Needs, Her Needs, your goal is no longer to change your partner. Like, of course, you want them to know what it is that you like in the relationship and things that you admire or things that you look forward to. But as I'm reading through this book, it's much more prominent to me that I love her and I want to know what she enjoys or what she wants out of the relationship so I can serve her. And then, of course, she's in that same mindset because we've gone through these situations together, and now she wants to do the same thing. So now you have two people wanting to serve each other in the best way they can.
Yep.
And for us, that has helped our communication tremendously, mostly because they were topics we never even thought about, like the idea of liking physical. Now, that's a very masculine trait. It's more common when studied that the male finds a physical appearance meaningful in the relationship than females. So if you rank them out of like the 10 attributes, more men would rate that higher than most women. Not always, but generally. So these are concepts like that she was foreign to, and it's like, so why does that work that way for you? Like, why is that what drives you in a relationship? Mm-hmm. And for her, it's like we actually did have our second ones overaligned, and it was like affection. So then it's like, well, those things are naturally working, so those aren't a source of conflict for us. But that's what's helped us. I'm not married yet. Yeah. I'm not a judge. I can't speak definitively on this topic. That's just what's helped me.
Well, you're going into it with your eyes open, right? I mean, you're understanding and learning, and I think that's appropriate because you'll learn that every relationship there's compromise, good or bad, right? But if you guys are on the same understanding or same playing field, you'll know that compromise should bring you closer together, right? You're not holding out over here, expecting her to come all the way or vice versa. But I think for me, that's been a big shift in the last few years, is understanding how to play well with others, right? And how to have fun at the same time. So.
Yeah. Because at the end of the day, in any relationship, whether that be somebody you're intimate with, dating or whatever, whether that be a family member, assuming that it's not a toxic relationship, you guys want the same thing. Yeah. One of you doesn't want kids, one of you does want kids. Well, the goal is you want a good family, you want a good, happy family, and you have different approaches to it. So in my experience, as long as I keep in mind that giving people the benefit of the doubt and that we have the same goals, and that we voice that, it's like, do you want a good family? It's like, well, of course I want one. So it's like, all right, now here's our two different approaches. How can we compromise and find some sort of middle ground? And whether that be something extreme like where do we want to live, or something like where do we want to eat? Yeah. It's like we're both hungry.
That's right.
We both want to be fed. Neither one of us want to be cranky in the car yelling. Yeah. So it's like, all right, well, how can we find that middle ground?
That's right.
All right. Well, do you have actually? Let's go ahead and do the links. Let's talk about you and what it is that you're currently doing. We've talked about that a ton, but what it is that you are like right now. This is what's going through your head, couple hours a day, focused on, and where can people find or contribute to that?
Yeah. So I would say, I told you earlier, I'm trying to grow my business with Thrivent Financial as a financial advisor. So I do spend maybe 10 or 12 hours a day, weekdays mostly, a little bit on weekends, trying to build that foundation, right, to provide for my family, but also it also provides for my kingdom work, right? It feeds my ministries, right? So without my day job and that work, but they happen to coincide really well together. So that growth, I'm looking for Christians that are interested in learning more about what a healthy relationship with money is. I tell people my ideal clients are people whose faith is important to them. They're interested in listening to a professional. I have all kinds of licenses and certifications and trading mutual funds and all those things. But for people that are willing to listen to the advice of a professional, but they also have a healthy value of money, right? So I tell a lot of my clients money's a tool. It's not a goal. It's not a God. It's not an idol, right? So if you know of somebody that wants help with their retirement planning,
tax season's coming up. People are going to have some extra money here.
That's right. So getting into that, helping people be tax efficient, that's been kind of a fun area for me to grow in these past few years. So that's one piece of it. Right now I spend some of my kind of capacity on, we didn't really talk about Chainbreaker Ministries. So that's
ran out of time.
I didn't mention it earlier, but so some of my friends and I were trying to bring kind of almost a franchise of Wheeler Mission to Columbus from Indianapolis, mostly focused on inpatient Christ-centered addiction recovery. So we were hoping to open our doors, hoping back in November. We had some fire code issues we had to work through and get some fire doors and smoke detectors, all that stuff. And now we're getting most of that stuff done, hoping to open in the next week. So that'll be inpatient residents. So we've been working through a lot of those changes and just get the doors open. Our ministry's been working since probably the beginning of November, where we've been referring guys into the program, taking them in, but there's other intake sites around the state where we transport them to get them checked into the rehab they need. So that's been consuming. The car ministry is almost on cruise control for me, because I might, if Leah goes on girls' night tonight, I might go out in the barn and work for 6 or 8 hours and not even think about it, but I'm just hustling cars and changing stuff and listening to my rap music really loud, jamming out. So, that's been a piece of it. So, on the car ministry side.
So if people want to help support these ministries, whether those be yours, whether those be Leah's, could you let people know where to find that?
Yeah. So our car ministry is called Jeremiah184.org. So, that's our website, Jeremiah184.org. That's Jeremiah, 18 verse 4. So it talks about the pot that he was shaping was marred, so he repurposed it for something useful. So that's the kind of the tagline of our car ministry is a lot of people think we're repurposing cars to make them useful, but our goal is to repurpose hearts and make the people useful.
I like that.
So it's kind of a double thing. It fits in Christian or secular. So there's that side. I'm trying to grow my Facebook presence for my Thrivent business. Right. So as I post tips and tricks on how to save money for college or how to save money on your taxes, how to save money on life insurance, all those kind of topics, or just when I host a lot of different events that are service projects or fundraisers for other ministries in the community, I try and put them on that Thrivent page. So that's just my name, which is John Sandlin Thrivent Financial. That's my business Facebook page.
We'll have links to all these on the description for the YouTube video for people that are on Spotify or any of the others. I hope you heard them well enough. Otherwise, check out the YouTube channel, TRIFLIX Cast. You can find all of the podcast interviews that we've had, as well as those links. I'll let you continue on. I think you had a couple more. Yeah,
so for Chainbreakers, we do have a website there. That's also, we just got our 501c3 status, and it's an LLC as well. So we have a website there. It's chainbreakerministries.org. We do accept donations online there. So that's heavily capital intensive to operate a house and handle all the utilities and the things that go with running a house. Everybody that lives in a house knows it costs money, right? So we're all self-funded. We're also private funded. We don't charge for that service to the clients that come in or the people that come in off the street wanting that Christ-centered recovery. We try and keep it free for them, which we plan to and have been doing. So that's interesting. Our mentorship ministry at Terrace Lake, we call it Mark 1231, or I'm sorry, just 1231. We don't advertise the Mark part. But for there, you can get the links to that from Terrace Lake's website, Terrace Lake Church in Columbus. You can find how to do that or how to contribute. We're both looking, you can always donate money to the church and mark it for our ministry specifically. Or we're always looking for people that are mentors that we can refer people to, because Terrace Lake isn't the perfect home for everybody that we evangelize to.
Right.
So we like having those networks and people to refer to other churches. So.
Right on. And then for Leah?
So for Leah, so her main jail ministry kind of vendor is REC. It's called New Day Residents Encounter Christ. I don't know what their website is. We can put it in the link.
We'll have the link there.
But when you see REC, they're always looking for additional sponsors. When we go into the jails, we try and take them lots of pop and Mountain Dew and sugar snacks and all those kind of things. So for every weekend, and there's one going on this weekend, I believe it's in Jefferson County. It's already going. But we're always looking for people that are willing to sponsor those. I know their need specifically right now is for an enclosed trailer. So if you know somebody that has an enclosed trailer or one that's broken or has a bad car issue or whatever, that I can help them fix it up and get it going, we're kind of shopping for a large, maybe 24-foot enclosed trailer, because they take all those goodies from jail to jail and deliver them. So that's for the REC ministry. Some of the other groups she's involved with, Celebrate Recovery.
Yep.
They're always looking for sponsors or partnerships as well. It's just as much about relationships and support and awareness as it is finances, I think. So, yeah, that's the highlights.
That's all of them. All right, man. Well, if you guys liked Mr. Sandlin, Mrs. Sandlin on the show, this was actually our first time having two guests. So we haven't had two guests on before. That was really cool. I think depending on what people say, whether they like the cameras and all that, we might continue that. We got a couple more doubles that we've been holding off because we weren't sure how it would work out. For people watching, again, if you like him, go check him out. We have links in the description. If you are interested in supporting the show, I know we've had a ton of different requests for support, but if you guys like this show, if you like promoting creative or innovative people, your money directly towards the show helps us keep this going, keep the lights on, help us afford the staff here that we have, run behind the cameras, behind the editing and all of that. If you guys know of anybody that is creative, innovative, doing ministry work, doing the Lord's work, whatever it may be, we don't judge. We'd love to have them on. Send them our way. You can find all of our information at TRIFLIX.com, and that'll take you off to our Instagram, to Facebook, YouTube, all that stuff. We have the podcast stream directly on there as well if you want to listen to it that way. But other than that, this has been a very information-packed hour and 15 coming in here. I didn't know what to expect with a car ministry. That's right. It was definitely a first for me, but I'm glad we got to have this conversation. It's been a pleasure, Tristan. Thanks for having us on. Yeah, you too, man. Nice to meet you.